Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Cheryl Gomez, COO and CFO of the study group, and we're really excited for this webinar series exploring an agenda for advancing AI measurement and assessment system innovation. Today, we'll begin with a few housekeeping items and sharing resources, and we'll continue on with context for the webinar series and move to our panel discussion.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Catuli with the study group. As you settle in here, please drop into the chat where you are from and your name so we can get a sense of who's in the room. We'll be using the chat feature throughout our session today, so feel free to add any comments, reflections, and you can always use the Q&A feature for questions as we move through. The session will be recorded, so we'll be sharing that out to you all afterwards. And we will be dropping links in the chat throughout the session. If you run into any technical difficulties, you can send me a message or send me an email at lauren@study-group.org.
Thanks, Lauren. We invite you to learn more about the study group in our just released annual report. And we also invite you to sign up to receive our weekly roundup highlighting recent developments and initiatives at the intersection of AI assessment, data, research, and policy, and send us any recommended content. We are actively publishing our Getting Smart series on advancing AI measurement and assessment system innovation. If you have a topic or idea that you're interested in collaborating, we would love to hear from you. We encourage you to check out Beyond the Snapshot. How might we make assessments in the service of learning possible for all learners in the AI era? A recent piece with Professor Edmund W. Gordon that explores his seminal work for the past 20 years. We'll put the link in the chat for you to access that. And this spring's webinar extends the Gordon Commission's call to really transform assessment into a catalyst for learning. You can access our Assessment for Learning microsite where each of the chapters is available to download, and it makes it real simple to read and share individual chapters with your network. Valerie Shute writes of Robert Miss-Levy that he understood that every time we test a student, we are really telling a story about who they are and what they are capable of doing. And he wanted that story to be as accurate, fair, and helpful as possible. And we offer a set of reminiscence as both a celebration of the past and a foundation for the future of educational measurement. And we invite you to read this reflection as a memorial and an early chapter in the research programs inspired by his intellectual journey. We had an outpouring of commitments joining Modeling What Matters project, building on his legacy. And please reach out if you're interested in contributing or getting involved. Future sessions will focus on assessment system innovation in the multimodal AI era, and we'll explore innovating what, how, and for whom we measure in the coming sessions. Today, we'll be exploring designing for high quality, explainable educational measurement in the AI era. Lauren, if you could go to the video slide, we'll hear from our colleagues about the relevance and significance of today's discussion.
And people ask me a lot about the role of AI in educational assessment. Will it help? Will it hurt?
In the past, a good test meant the score matched a person's skill. Today, what matters just as much is how people interpret and use those scores.
Even a well-designed test is invalid if its results are misunderstood or misused.
AI has the potential to increase engagement by tailoring tasks to a learner's language, background, or interests, allowing different tasks to measure the same underlying skills.
But different tasks make it harder to compare results.
High technical quality depends on connecting three models:
What we measure,
the task learners perform,
and how results are interpreted.
For credibility, AI assessments must be transparent, they must be explainable, and they must be accurate.
we must move from black box determinations to clear reasoning and evidence change for every inference.
AI must also be trained on data sets that reflect human variation to capture authentic learning progressions and avoid repeating old biases.
By prioritizing scientific soundness and transparency,
We might move towards a broader informed consideration of assessments
that are fair,
Reliable.
and trustworthy for all.
Thanks, Lauren. We'll now move to our panel discussion, and our moderator today, Eric Tucker, will get us kicked off.
Thank you, Cheryl. As president and CEO of the study group, I'll start by conveying how grateful we are for the panelists for joining this conversation, and to each of you for joining both live, and we have a great group here, and asynchronously for those watching later. Kadriye, Angela, Michelle, Gabby, we're delighted to share this time with you and to learn from and with you. Thank you for your diligent preparation for today's session. As you know, we're asking you to share 2.5 to 3 minutes of framing remarks, including introducing yourself. We'll then spend 30 some odd minutes in a high velocity, high value conversation amongst and between this all-star group of women leading measurement innovation. The session will wrap with a lightning round of closing remarks from each of you. With no further ado, let's kick off the first presentation.
Great. Hi, Eric, and hello, colleagues around the world. Thank you for joining us across different time zones. I'm Kadriye Erçukan, Senior Vice President at ETS Global Research. I'm also Professor Emerita from the University of British Columbia, Canada. And I'm really honored to be part of this webinar on a very important topic for our field, for the field of measurement. It's also a topic that's close to my heart, quality and explainability in educational measurement in the AI era. I spent my career conducting research on cultural and language issues on assessment, and takes a really different lens into assessing individuals from different cultural, societal, and language backgrounds. Let's go to the next slide. I want to first start off with saying how transformative AI has been for the field of assessment and measurement, for particularly during the last 2-3 years. And also, we really need to acknowledge the many opportunities that AI provides to innovating the field of assessment and measurement, and ultimately really help drive assessment to better meet its goals, better serve learners, better serve decision makers, and better serve societies. The opportunities include personalization, interactivity, adaptivity to meet the test taker where they are. And this is all ultimately intended to improve engagement, optimize performance, and improve measurement precision. And all of these are really intended to potentially enhance validity and fairness. AI also facilitates presenting individuals with interactive tasks that can really help us with assessing complex cognitive processes such as critical thinking and collaboration. But one of the most widely used applications of AI is in automated content generation and scoring. AI algorithms are used in generating assessment tasks as well as extracting evidence of targeted constructs. And perhaps one of the most impactful ways is through providing feedback to learners, feedback to test takers, and provide a more direct connection with learning, which has been the focus of several decades of efforts. However, these opportunities come with risks that can seriously compromise the quality, explainability, validity, and fairness in assessments that can all have really significant consequences. Next slide, please. So how do we minimize such risks? I'd like to emphasize the importance of critical evaluation and interrogation of these applications. I find that the two key concepts that have been developed in the field of measurement, validity and fairness, these concepts have been defined and redefined, and over many decades, these are really helpful in thinking through how do we evaluate these applications. Under these lenses of validity and fairness, I pose three questions. The first one getting at the efficacy. To what extent does the application meet its targeted goals? Second, validity. What evidence supports intended use and interpretation? And third, fairness. To what extent these goals are consistently affecting individuals from different groups, positive or negative. This has been at the core of fairness definition in the field of assessment. Next slide, please. Ultimately, if we value assessment and measurement making a positive impact on education and society, which is why I'm in this field, we need to take a critical stance and ask whether AI is promoting better measurement, in what ways AI is advancing measurement, and what evidence supports that. And I want to end my comments with a thought around whether the field of measurement is fully prepared for this integration, and whether we need to rethink concepts like validity and fairness in ways that goes beyond when they were initially developed in the context of standardized assessments. And I'll stop there so my colleagues have a chance to speak.
Should I go ahead, Eric?
Yes, please.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Angela Bang. I'm a senior program officer at the Gates Foundation, working on the assessment initiative for the U.S. program team. And excited to be here with all of you to share some of the work that we're funding. Go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So to give you a little background on what we've been working on for the past 2 years in our assessment work, we've been really focused on helping to develop and support partners who are working towards efficient, engaging, and useful assessments with the enabling technologies of AI that we're seeing now. So the problem that we're hoping to solve with these new innovations in assessment is the testing burden that students are facing. We are soon going to share some published research on the hours of testing that students are burdened by across interim and formative tests in districts throughout the US. and particularly for students of color and students who are performing below grade level. So we really believe that it is possible to improve these existing assessments to meet the needs of multiple stakeholders and allow a test to serve multiple audiences at the same time, being designed intentionally and with the valid evidence to make sure that the results that the teachers and parents and district and school leaders are seeing are able to be trusted. And we're also looking towards next generation innovation by looking at public goods and other ways to really support the field to generate new products that serve all students. One of the approaches that we took for our initiative was to work with the cohort of assessment providers. And I'm very glad to see Michelle on this call, as ANET has been one of our trusted partners to think about how we can develop these quality measures to serve all students and the stakeholders that I mentioned before. Some of the product quality features that we focused on through this innovative assessment cohort can be seen on the slide here. We really wanted to focus on user-informed principles, making the assessment experience better for students and teachers. We wanted to make sure that the data that's being generated is reliable and offering predictive insights that are accurate and can provide information about the student's personal learning trajectory. We wanted to make sure the results are meaningful and that teachers can use it for their daily instructional use. At the same time, we wanted to make sure it's valuable to policymakers, as I mentioned before, for that district level and school leader level. And overall, we want to make sure that these tests are not adding to the burden and that they're contributing to more efficient collection of data. Some early learnings that I wanted to share with this group that will be published more broadly soon. We wanted to really focus on these student-centered, culturally responsive, personalized best practices. And you can see that some of these principles are ones that I'm sure many of the testing vendors in the field are exploring. So we have looked into ways to make sure that we can share this with the broader cohort here and share it at upcoming conferences such as NCME and NCSA. So please look out for those events to come. And we really want to make sure that the assessments are improving the experience of students at the same time. And that's our goal. And lastly, I just want to end with our broader theory of action and where we're headed in the future. So in addition to the innovative assessment cohort with our key partners that are looking at improving their existing assessment solutions, we really want to scale that to others in the field and make sure that we're moving towards the scaling across all assessment products. At the same time, we've been working with partners like the study group to develop a broader AI assessment research agenda. And we want to make sure that we're reaching out to other groups that are interested in the same values as we are to ensure that fairness and equity and inclusion are included when we think about how to incorporate AI into assessment. Couple of the ways that we are hoping to accomplish this is through developing a landscape that looks at the assessments that are taking place right now across key districts and helping districts to understand which ones are redundant and which ones can be replaced by more efficient and engaging assessments. We also want to extend this user-facing product quality framework to help practitioners and district leaders select those better assessments and have a framework for evaluating the current products out there. And yeah, we're excited to share more about that work in the coming year. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Odemiga. I'm the CEO of the Achievement Network. And this fall, ANET published a white paper. I'll put it in the chat for those of you all who'd be curious to learn more. But the white paper unpacked the missing link between assessments, curriculum, and instruction. And if you take us to the next slide, it was really anchored around this central premise that many of us experience every day, that too many assessment systems are currently focused on diagnosing failures, and too few of them are actually helping our teachers design for success. And as if you move forward one more slide, in that work, we really analyzed the key features of assessments that were actually getting impact for students and ones that were not. And the harsh reality is that not assessments, all assessments are created equal. We learned through that study that the really impactful assessments had three core features. One, instructional utility. Was the assessment actually usable in the classroom? Two, curricular integrity. Did it connect directly to the core curriculum that was being used, or did it incentivize teachers to get out of their core material? And then lastly, data-driven continuity. Did the assessment facilitate all the educators within the ecosystem, whether it was the classroom teacher, the interventionist, or central office, to be leveraging the same instructional source of truth to drive their decision-making? And we saw that not only did this make an impact, have an impact, a measurable impact on student learning, but that the majority of the assessments available to teachers actually didn't meet these very simple criteria of being really usable and actionable. And I think this conversation around the research we've done around how assessments are used, what's available, and how we design the future of assessments really matters at this next wave that we are facing right now in AI and education. And so if you take us forward, I want to anchor on a few core data points that we're seeing right now in the space. One, there are about 2,700 plus. I think when I did this original poll, might be a few months ago. So we probably crossed the 3,000 threshold. But 2,700 ed tech tools that are being used every year now with no coherent view of student learning. We are seeing that 53% of teachers are reporting high job-related stress, which is twice as much as other people in similar professions. And roughly 78% of K-12 schools right now are using at least one AI-powered tool in the classroom. And I bring these three data points up because it's really clear to me that the future of learning and assessments is moving away from discrete reactive testing events towards a mode of more continuous intelligent systems where we're going to be able to ingest multimodal signals around how students are learning, whether that's through analyzing their voice, their student work, their written responses. And the real heavy work will be how do we unify those data points and make sense of them in ways that actually help teachers act. But this moment is also posing a really critical threat in terms of assessment. And there's, lots of questions around validity and the quality of the content. But right now, I'm really concerned about a phrase that I've learned called info obesity. And that's where teachers and leaders are just being so overwhelmed by the volume of data and dashboards and disconnected signals that overwhelm the educator and the leaders and making it ultimately harder, not easier, to identify what matters and to act on it. And that info obesity is happening because every single tool that we're purchasing from that 2,700 is generating its own metrics, its own insights, and ultimately leading teachers with these fragmented pictures and competing sources of truth rather than a coherent understanding of classroom insights. And so the future of assessments, if you click one more time for me, is not about the 30 different charts, but how do we get clear about the 1 to 3 next steps and actions that educators can take? And at ANET, our thesis is that teachers don't need more data. They need better translation of data into instructionally relevant next steps. But as a field and assessments, we kind of find ourselves in familiar traps, repeating the same mistakes, where we are doing a lot of work to upgrade our measurement engines faster than we are spending time actually upgrading our meaning-making systems. And so I've been pushing myself and our organization, not just to get better at predictions, but to get better at interpretation, to get better at the judgment, and get better at the actions we support. Because assessments haven't failed because they haven't been rigorous. They've failed because they've been too late and too abstract and too disconnected. And so at ANET, we're grounding our work on this simple but really demanding belief that Validity is not just about how the score is calculated, but it's about how we support the human to act on it. And that means that quality reporting can't be an afterthought in our assessment design, but it has to be the heartbeat of how we think about our impact. So excited for this conversation and for us to have an opportunity to dig in more.
Thank you. Gabby?
So exciting. So I'm happy to be here. And just a little bit about me, because I am not currently with the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, but I was. I've spent the last 30 years of my career working on at the intersection of assessment, improvement, and real world use. And the thing to know, what brings me here, is I'm interested in how AI can strengthen assessment without losing sight of the people who live in its consequences. And that is very much so at the heart and soul of how I show up in this work. Next slide. So, why do people matter in assessment? There are three things that I think we need to keep, and as everyone has discussed so far, there are three core pieces of value here. One is people are not averages. We've gotten to a place where now we have the technology where we can design for that to some degree. Students bring different languages, cultures, strengths, and ways of showing what they know. When assessments are designed for a narrow definition of typical, which we do really well, the results are less accurate and less trustworthy. We have to remember human variability is signal, not noise. Next slide. Oh, sorry, go back to the last slide. There's stuff on there. So learning happens, thank you. Learning happens in context. Students don't encounter assessments in vacuums. They bring their families, communities, histories, and lived experiences with them. When assessments ignore that context, results are easily misinterpreted and trust erodes. We have to understand and design for experience is shaped by context and not just the tool or the task. And we run the risk of always focusing on the tool and the task. Learning is social. Learning happens with others. Assessments send powerful messages about who is capable and who belongs. Especially in K-12 systems, those messages can either support growth or reinforce limiting labels. Measures always, and I mean always, communicate values. We have to design for people, and designing for people isn't separate from quality, it's central to it. Next slide. So, designing for people. What this means is that we know that AI, as everyone has mentioned, AI is making it easy for us to optimize for speed and prediction, the holy grail, right? But in education, quality means designing systems that work for students, educators, and families, not just for the models. We have to be able to explain those results clearly. Explainability isn't about exposing the code, although that is really, really important. It's about helping people understand what results mean, what they don't mean, and how they should be used. This helps us protect trust over time. And AI systems, as well as humans and context, change and they'll evolve. But trust depends on our ability to monitor in an ongoing manner, especially for unintended impacts across different student groups. We have to reframe success as education should be defined for human flourishing or as human flourishing. And by that, we mean growth, designing for growth, learning, agency, and opportunity. Assessments shouldn't define success. They provide feedback along that learning trajectory. In this current era, high quality assessments support human flourishing when it stays in its proper role, informing decisions and not defining students. Thanks.
So we'll take off slides for now. Michelle, I appreciate your framing around the potential of multimodal insights, voice, student work, student writing, sitting alongside more traditional assessment. So the first question will go to Angela, picking up on that. In K-12, you're leading work culminating in a user-facing product quality frame. Could you share a bit more about that? And we're going to kind of pick up the pace so that we get through all of the contributions of colleagues. But we'd love to hear more about helping practitioners and district and system leaders understand and define features of high quality assessment in an era of multimodal AI.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we've taken the past 2 years to develop an internal facing target product profile at the foundation that was informed by user interviews with district leaders as well as teachers. And then we had the opportunity to engage with some of our key partners, including Michelle's team at ANET. So we are now in the process of taking that target product profile and with the help of others in the field, translating it to what we are calling a product quality framework that will be public facing. And we hope to engage with many of you on this call on that development and gather your feedback. It's not going to be a brand new framework. It's going to be based on the work that came out of this innovative assessment cohort. But we still want to make sure that it's meeting the needs of current challenges that educators and district leaders are facing. And we would like to build on the work that partners like Michelle have already done with high quality instructionally aligned assessments, and that will be a key feature of that, as well as some of the personalized, co-designed, student-developed items from that our other partners are working on to make sure that students are engaged in the content of the assessment. And we hope to also build on the work of our colleagues at the Gates Foundation, our K-12 R&D team, as well as our global education team and solutions team have been working on similar frameworks for curriculum. And so we want to make sure that we're aligned with those and assessment is not isolated by itself.
Thank you. Kadriye, it's heartening to see the leadership of, including through organizations like NCME or ITS, National Academies or ETS, to actively share scientific source code by making resources, most recently Educational Measurement 5th edition, or the currently under revision standards for educational and psychological testing, to make those resources open access. At the same time, multimodal AI presents novel challenges and is moving really quickly. What are the kinds of evidence needed for efficacy, validity, fairness in each of the types of applications you discussed?
Thanks, Eric. I'm actually very proud of the efforts that NCME and ITC are engaging in this critical juncture for our field. What evidence is needed? So picking up on some of the points that my colleagues made, focusing on how assessment can better serve learning, better serve individuals, and better recognize individual differences, cultural differences, context effects. I want to highlight two examples. One is in assessment, informing learning through providing feedback, and the other one is personalization. So with respect to the providing feedback and learning, the goal is, so there are different ways of providing feedback in the learning assessments embedded in learning environments or separate assessment tasks, AI-driven feedback. So we need to, first of all, find evidence that supports that this feedback is really affecting engagement and learning. How are the learners or test takers behaving differently in the context of getting this feedback? Is there any evidence that this feedback is making an impact, and is it making a positive impact? Is there improvement in engagement demonstrated by how the individuals go through a learning module or go through an assessment task by using resources or not using them, the time they spent on them? So these are the process data can really provide important information about if the engagement, the feedback has made any difference in the engagement. And we also need to, I mean, if the intention is to improve learning, we need to look at evidence of learning outside of that immediate assessment or learning context. Is there evidence, external evidence that demonstrates that learning is real, that it's not just outcome of that very small contained learning context? And of course, I want to return back to the concept of fairness. Is the evidence supporting improvement in engagement and learning similarly strong for individuals from different contexts? So feedback, certain types of feedback may work for individuals. Do they work similarly for individuals, English learners, or individuals from different cultural backgrounds, or even educational contexts, which may be learners who are exposed to different forms of instruction, different levels of depth of engagement? So that's basically looking at evidence that supports that inclusion of AI tools is really making a difference. It's making a positive difference, and this positive difference is similarly strong for everyone. I want to turn to personalization because this is really close to my heart as well, and it's a strong research area at ETS. The goal of personalization in assessment is to improve engagement, whether it's the learning environment or assessment environment or assessment embedded in learning environment, better measurement, stronger validity evidence, better alignment with the test taker interests, cultural backgrounds, and familiarity with context. So if we're looking for searching evidence, validity, fairness evidence, we do need to ask whether the personalization is meeting its intended goals of improving engagement, better measurement precision, better alignment with test taker interests and backgrounds. Ultimately, we want these to have a positive impact on student performance. Is personalization helping student performance? Is personalization really optimizing performance? And of course, coming back to fairness, is the evidence of personalization improving engagement, measurement, and performance consistently across individuals from different contexts?
Thank you. Michelle, picking up on that conversation around assessment for learning, the benefits of the feedback, of the insights. Validity in use goes beyond psychometric properties of the instrument itself to consider how educators and learners might interpret the resulting data and what actions those data prompt. Within this context, I'm hoping you might share about ANET's efforts towards reporting innovation, which aim to improve the usefulness, the usability of insights from assessment.
Yeah, I appreciate that question, Eric, because in practice, we believe that validity lives or dies at the moment of interpretation. And I learned the hard way a couple of years ago that this was a hot take. At the time, I thought everybody thought the same thing, but it was a bit of a hot take that in my mind, if an insight doesn't change what a teacher does tomorrow, it is not valid no matter how strong the psychometrics are. And I'll say that again because I think this is really important when we talk about the validity of our assessments. If the insights and reports we create don't help change an educator's next move, it's not valid to them. Because a score that is technically valid but doesn't change instructional practice is a failure for all of us. And when we talk about the ideas, and at ANET we call it instructional utility, or Eric, you just called it validity and use, what we're really talking about is that data has to earn the right to influence instruction. And the hard truth is that most assessment data fail not because the data is wrong, but because it arrives at a moment that feels so attached and so irrelevant to the educator's decision making. And so as at ANA, as we've been innovating on our own assessments and asking ourselves harder questions, we've been thinking about this on a few fronts. One, we've been really pushing ourselves to design reports around decisions and not just based on arbitrary charts and graphs that we've done before, but every insight has to be able to map to an instructional move. Otherwise, we're just adding noise to a teacher's classroom. And we have to design a report starting from the decisions that we ultimately hope educators are actually going to be making and that they face every day, not from what we can technically output. Right? Because sometimes you can start from what can you technically pull off instead of what do you ideally want to inform and influence, and then work your way backwards into the technical. We also have been thinking a lot about how do we make sure we are putting a privilege towards the patterns versus just the singular moments in time. Again, I really believe we're going to be moving to an era where we have more continuous intelligence about students. And so our ability to get interpretations around trends matters more than getting single scores that capture a moment in time. We can be really precise about a moment in time for a student, but what are the patterns that we need to be elevating for teachers that will help them understand trends in their classroom and trends for a learner? And really ensure that we're kind of helping them think about where the learner is at on a journey and how they can continue to support them as they progress. And I would say also in this, as we talk about machine learning and AI, it also means to be really honest and explicit about where we're uncertain. Particularly when you're navigating generative AI. I mean, we've all been in ChatGPT or Gemini, and some people call it AI slop. I call it reasonable nonsense. Like sometimes AI can project confidence when it's actually kind of giving you a whole bunch of close information or good enough. And that reasonable nonsense has, what I've observed for many of us is that we've all gotten a little bit too comfortable with getting information and outputs that are good enough, right? Like, oh, close enough, I can tweak it and work from there. But the reality is when we're talking about insights that are about a student and their learning journey, good enough isn't, right? It's like having reasonable nonsense and approximations. We have to be really candid about like, when are we precise here and when are we kind of generating and hoping that a teacher leverages and couples in their judgment to fine tune and adjust it. And we have to be intentional about communicating our confidence levels and our limitations of what can this report or this insight tell you and what can it not tell you. Because when we allow for misuse, I think this was in your opening video and I really appreciated it, but like misuse is a validity failure in its own right. And I think that connects to my last point that I'll make here, which is, when we're designing reports, we're also designing for professional judgment. We would treat reporting as part of the measurement system, not just about how we visualize, but how we're going to ensure that we're actually alongside an educator in their decision making. Our reporting assumes that educators are not just there to consume answers from us, but they're there to be alongside, we're there to be alongside them as they make key decisions and leverage their professional judgment. Our goal is not to design assessments or reports that are going to replace their expertise, but that is going to give them the lift and scaffold that they need as they are navigating the complexity of their classroom. So reporting is not for us about making it prettier or making it faster, but it's about making sure that the insights we generate actually deserve a teacher's time. It's ensuring that if we are generating things that are adding to teachers' cognitive load without actually improving their instructional practice, it doesn't matter how valid our claims are, we're not worthy of a teacher's time, right? And so we have to produce reports that are worthy of teachers' time, worthy of their expertise, and alongside them in their classroom practice.
Thank you. Gabby, we have been hearing examples and vision for how multimodal AI promises to transform how we measure human potential and human performance. But it too often assumes our trust without showing its work. Given everything we're hearing, if you were still in a funder seat at this moment, how would you approach a portfolio that tackles the promise and the peril of upgrading the quality and explainability of educational AI or of educational measurement in the AI era?
Great question. Fun question, actually. I feel like I got the really fun funder question. So I would ground it in humility and with lots of intention and organize it around four priorities. The first one, infrastructure as a public good, open standards, shared tools, transparent governance. Trust depends on foundations people can see and question. Everyone has given examples of that. We all need to show our work. Second, technical development with guardrails. And that means dynamic and explainable models, careful use of synthetic data. So innovation increases understanding rather than obscuring it. Great danger. Third, trust building as a long-term commitment. That means that we sustain those partnerships over time. It co-designs with learners and educators, and again, that ongoing monitoring. We've gotten in the habit in funding to just fund pilots, but this is beyond pilots. This is actual efficacy and understanding and iteration. And then finally, obviously, I'd be remiss if I didn't have a priority around redesigning systems that are oriented towards human flourishing. And because AI, let's be honest, it won't deliver on its promise if we can't rethink what success looks like and means and ensures that those assessments are actually remaining in that to Michelle's beautiful explanation, like feedback tools that are meaningful and that they're not definitions of worth or potential, but they actually create and work towards a system where everybody is gaining the skills and knowledge that they need to thrive in the world.
Awesome. Thank you. As is too typical of my approach as a moderator, we plan about 2 hours of content and have an hour together. So we're through the first round of questions, and we'll try to get through a second round, but I'd ask that we kind of do more lightning round 60-second answers to questions so that we can get to each of our colleagues and also get to lightning round closing remarks. So kind of shortening responses, we'll start with Kadriye. We heard wonderful question or kind of insights about reporting from Michelle. One of the most common applications of AI and measurement is in scoring. What are the kinds of evidence that should support validity and fairness in AI scoring?
Excellent question. Probably one of the most impactful ways that AI is really affecting assessment right now. So the typical evidence test developers, designers use for validating AI scoring is consistency with human scoring. And that's, in fact, yes, critical, necessary, but I have to emphasize it's not adequate evidence to support that yes, you can use the AI scores just based on the agreement between human and machine scores. So I'll get to my 15-minute ending. So in addition to this consistency, you need evidence that there is no construct irrelevance variance creeping in from AI scoring, such as evaluating writing style when the intent is to assess scientific reasoning. We also need to look at evidence of construct representation. One of the risks of AI scoring is scoring what's easy to score, where you get the highest consistency between humans and machines. And what can happen? The parts that are harder to score by machines are left out of the score. So we also need to look at whether you are underrepresenting the construct by including the AI scores. And ultimately, fairness. Is there evidence of systematic differences between human and AI scoring across groups?
Angela, what are bright spots you're noticing from innovative efforts to leverage multimodal AI to design and scale more efficient, engaging, and useful assessments? And if you could kind of combine your response with any closing remarks you have for the audience, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to highlight some of the work of our partners. And although it's early on and they are collecting the evidence to show some of these innovative multimodal approaches, some of our partners are thinking about educator-facing multimodal feedback. So AI-powered professional learning video modules that are embedded directly into the product so that educators can get that just-in-time feedback that Michelle was talking about. Similarly, using automated speech recognition, especially at the younger ages, to compile evidence of student learning, and then using the AI models behind the scenes to provide the feedback for the teachers on what the students really know. Another, I think, exciting innovation we're seeing is combining capturing written feedback, student feedback, and then combining that and incorporating it with existing skills. And once again, offering teachers next steps based on a combination of that written feedback as well as the digital assessments that they're taking. And then more directly student-facing AI-powered reading coaches that use ASR to offer personalized feedback to both the student and teacher about their learning trajectory. So I'm really excited to see that. And my closing remarks would just be to continue with the optimism that I think we're seeing here in this panel, that innovation is possible, even in assessment, to have more effective assessment that is student-centered and at the same time not adding burden, not adding additional time. I think we are on track to see evidence of that happening in the next 2 to 3 years.
Awesome. Michelle, again, a combined response. How should we be thinking about credibility and trust in the era of multimodal AI? And what closing reflections do you have for us?
Yeah, when I think about credibility and trust, one, I think it's important we acknowledge innovation will always move at the speed of trust. But when I think about it for myself, as a former educator, as a person who just spent my morning with educators, I think that most school leaders and teachers want to know two things. Do you understand the ecosystem that I'm working within? And do you understand me? And when we think about that, I think in terms of the ecosystem, it's really important for us to remember that no tool, including assessment, that we are building right now is existing in isolation anymore. Teachers are navigating multiple systems that are too often measuring different things, defining proficiency differently, telling them conflicting stories about the same exact student. And that trust collapses when an educator is left to reconcile those contradictions on their own. And they feel like you actually don't understand the ecosystem I'm working with, where I don't have time to kind of navigate this info obesity or this volume of disconnected, fragmented information. And so as we think about this moment in time we're in, it's really going to be about the coherence across tools. That is going to be a key way to create credibility within your tool. And then I think it's also about, do you understand the educators? So first I was talking about, do you understand their ecosystem? But do you understand them? And I don't think that trust is something that most educators cannot tell you how valid an assessment is. Trust is not something that you solely establish with them through validation. They think about it through how they trust you through their repeated use. And so how are we designing assessment systems that help educators reason with the data and not just comply with it? How are we building assessments where we understand that trust has to be earned with teachers, and they trust a tool not because it's cutting them out of the process, but because it's actually been built to invite them into the process. And so the future to me of AI and assessments and in education is not going to be about replacing teacher judgment, but it's going to be about making human judgment safer and sharper and making it feel better supported. And I say all of that as I think about what I would leave this group with is that I think we oftentimes frame assessments in AI as technical challenges that just through better models and better data and better prediction, we'll find our way through it. But I don't actually think that we have a measurement problem in education. I really think we have a respect problem. And until our assessments and AI systems truly respect teachers' judgment, their time, and their expertise, until they really focus on how do I help the human in front of me make sense of what I'm producing for them rather than replace them or try to, mathematically equate in a way that they can't understand. I think that no amount of sophistication in the technical tools we built will be really worthy of their time and attention, because it's not about how intelligent our systems are. I love this phrase you said earlier, Gabby, but it's about how they honor the humans who have to live with the consequences of those systems that we're building.
Gabby, if you could close us out here, picking up on that insight around respect and trust in inferential systems for learners, for educators, for workers. Trust and respect face challenges and also opportunities from multimodal AI. How do we think about advancing human dignity, human variation, supporting learners to define success for themselves and then achieve that success at this moment? What's at stake and where to from here?
Well, Michelle pretty much took the reins in that direction. It is not a technical trust in AI supported inference isn't a technical issue. It's not just about technical accuracy. It is about whether people feel respected by a system. And one of the ways that we show that respect is to make sure that we're including people who are engaged and affected and partnering within that system in that meaning making. And in that partnering, we actually understand what matters to them and why, the lived experience that helps define what gets measured, how those results are interpreted, and then when inferences are appropriate. This supports dignity by giving people real voice and agency that they feel commitment to. It addresses human variation because it does make it visible where AI systems can't infer on their own and shouldn't, and it keeps it in its proper place. That feedback loop is iterative. When we're able to co-design and it's sustained and relational, it's not just a one-shot deal. And I think in product development, people get into this like one-time engagement situation, and that just gives you the checkoff. But it should be long-term because it provides that foundation for durable trust. And I'd say my closeout for that at this point would be, let's not forget that behind every data point, there is a person with a history, a community, a future they're trying to shape. AI doesn't change that, but it does amplify it. And so we need to, through co-design, be and transparency and humility is trust is something that we shouldn't be asking for. It's something we should be earning.
Thank you to each of the panelists. Thank you to each of you for spending this hour with us and for being part of a growing community of educators and researchers committed to reimagining assessment in a way that upgrades how we understand and design for quality, particularly for usefulness for learners, for educators, for families. We hope today's discussion sparked ideas that you'll carry forward in your own practice, in your own design, and we hope that you'll stay in touch. Thank you so much. and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.